What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another edition of Crossing the Line podcast. Thanks so much for coming out and hanging out with us once again. A short turnaround this week as we recorded late last week and we are back to our regularly scheduled broadcast and we are with our full dynamic once again. So in some particular order across the screen, Mike Davella, Jack Molesky, Mark Vignani, and myself, Tyler Zulli, we welcome you back once again. And before we go any further, if you don't mind, if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, hit that like button. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, drop a subscription for us as well. We are well underway at this point, and we thank you for everything that you have given us and provided us to this point. So with that being said, gentlemen, it is good to be back with you. I know it's only been a couple days since we've chatted, but a whole lot of nothing has happened since then.
Well, the sports world, even though it's in the playoffs, kind of sucks right now.
It really does.
There are 8 teams in the conference finals across 2 sports, and 4 of those 8 teams have wins in the conference finals. That's how bad it is.
Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it.
3-0 in the NBA, 2-0. At least the NHL, all of the games have been OT, which is actually kind of cool. First time in history that both conference finals have had OT through the first 2 games on either side. But it's still right now blowouts in both series, which is weird.
Do you think they just felt like they needed extra hockey and they're like, you know what, let's just get as much hockey into every game as we can?
Well, I think the Hurricanes and the Panthers felt that in game 1, 4 overtimes and almost 13 seconds away from a 5th overtime. I was fighting back sleep that night to stay up for that game, but it was well worth it.
Your legs got to be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine skating that long. And I mean, just going around the rink, at the river rink, right? Like you rent skates and you go and you skate around in circles. Now imagine actually playing hockey for that long.
When I was working in the USHL, I lost a bet with the team. They were playing like shit, and I got overheard saying that they were going to lose all 3 games one weekend. And so the team brought me in after they had won all 3 games that weekend and kind of harassed me in a little bit of a circle. And then I had to do gassers on the ice, which are basically suicides, but on the ice. And after a minute of those, I was gassed. So I think they did the math. Some guys were skating 12 plus miles that night. I can't even imagine. And you're skating that at full speed, mind you, and hitting guys and blocking shots. Yeah, that's taxing.
So with all of that, I think that the storylines for the NBA and the NHL playoffs, or at least the NBA playoffs, come down to 2 guys. And we'll talk more about that. We're going to get into the NHL playoffs. We have a rule change in the NFL to discuss, and we're going to talk about one player in particular whose career is officially coming to an end, and I think it ends in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I'll talk to you guys about it as well. But first, we're going to get to some golf news on the other side, right here on Crossing the Line podcast. Yes, who would have thought that we're going to start today's episode with a little bit of golf action, the PGA Championships this weekend, and I know Jack's excited. Mike's excited for a different reason, but Brooks Koepka, gets back on track and a little bit of elation. I think the weight of the world off his shoulders after this victory. An enjoyable tournament. You guys know that I'm not a big golf watcher. I'm a big partaker in golf playing, which is not a good thing for anybody. But an enjoyable tournament nonetheless. And of course, again, ends with Brooks Koepka claiming the title once more.
Yeah, the Davella clan had boots on the ground there in Oak Hill.
Yeah, little Andy Dillas. Any viewers out there who watched the PGA Championship, whoever saw those blue fences, every single fence was painted by the little bro. So really excited for his opportunity there. He was always hoping all weekend for a big name to be able to win the tournament so that he could take a picture with them. So he got his wish with Koepka. But I know, Zully, you kind of teased it a little bit. To me, I think for the 4 of us being 90s babies and me being a nostalgia junkie, I love me a good old-fashioned block party. And that's exactly what the PGA Championship provided this weekend. Michael Block, the pro from Southern California, going in and stealing the show. Unbelievable performance, top 15 finish. We get to see him next year. We get to see him at Charles Schwab next week. Had the ace in his final round playing with Rory McIlroy. I mean, how unbelievably cool was that to watch his story unfold? And the dude is the man of the people. He's a man of the people. Was at the bar the night before his final round, drinking, taking pictures with people. I mean, this dude was just living his best life. He knew that this was going to probably be the best week of his life and took full advantage of it. Couldn't be happier for him and the opportunity that he had, not only to make some money, but to really live out his dream, play with some of the best golfers, people that he looks up to, and really just excited to have more exposure to this Cinderella story, because we are all, as voyeur type people, like in love with watching these improbable stories come to life. And we've talked about it on the podcast, some of our favorite Cinderella stories. This easily goes to the top of my list. And I know that the Netflix show Full Swing was in full force covering every single thing that this guy did this weekend. And I can't wait to see what they put together, just to really be able to kind of relive what happened this weekend. So shouts to Michael Block. We love a block party. Let's fucking go. Can't wait to root for you next week. This is probably the first Charles Schwab Invitational I'll ever watch.
I think it's really funny that you said Full Swing was there, and they're going to document his entire weekend. Hopefully he didn't have a John Daly-esque pre-match night, because that might not be great for his.
Hopefully he did.
I hope he had
I
a
was gonna
John
say, he'll
Daly
get more fans.
post-match night.
I
Yeah.
think that we need more guys like John Daly. Guys that are ready to get hammered drunk, rip some darts on the golf course, and get weird.
John Daly's darts per 18 alone should put him in the Golf Hall of Fame.
So they
Also-
have FIR, right? Fairway and regulation. They have GIR, greens and regulation. They should have darts and regulation.
DIR. Yeah. Everyone's throwing darts on the golf course, but John Daly's smoking them and throwing them. Yeah, Michael Block was cool. I mean, the hole in one like stole the show, right? But all the video clips of him like the day before when he found out he was going to be playing with Rory, and he's like, "Oh, no way!" Like he was like everyone, like he was a fan, but he ended up playing and finishing top 15. I also love the post-round interview with Amanda Balionis, where he's breaking down in tears, talking about like how he was living out a dream. And then he gets called for the exemption, as you mentioned, to Charles Schwab the very next week. So he gets to go play another tour event. Pretty cool story for sure. And quite honestly, probably overshadowed what was a pretty amazing performance by Brooks Koepka. And Zuli, you said it kind of like, this is him coming back from injury and now cementing himself once again, top of the golf world. And I saw this tweet today that I sent to Morgan on Twitter, but it's Koepka in his career majors versus Tiger in his career majors so far. So win percentage in career majors, Koepka 14%, Tiger 16%. Top three finishes, Koepka 25%, Tiger 28%. Top five, Koepka 39%, Tiger 36%. Top 10, 50% for Koepka, 45% for Tiger. He is quite literally just as good as Tiger Woods in terms of when he's playing in majors. He has 9 PGA Tour wins. 5 of them are majors. 4 of them are other events. Like no other guy, obviously Tiger excluded, elevates his game in the big moments in golf in the last 25 years than Brooks Koepka. And like he's cocky as hell. He rubs people the wrong way, but I respect a dude that's cocky and backs it up.
1,000%.
What the two of you just talked about literally gave me Happy Gilmore, I'm a hockey player, but I'm playing golf today vibes. Because on one hand, here's Jack, golf connoisseur, speaking about Shooter McGavin, a.k.a. Brooks Koepka, coming back and playing this tournament. And here's Mike pulling the homeless guy out of the street to be his caddy, and he's talking about this guy who finished in 15th, and he wants his big check too. Yeah. Like that's where we're at with this conversation. It's such it just gave me absolute Happy Gilmore vibes watching Block play this weekend.
Can anyone do a deep dive and find out if Block's tried to stab someone with a skate?
That's probable in from what I've gathered through TikTok and other social media. This guy is absolutely the best character possible. I saw a video of him recording like a little spot for the golf course that he's a pro at, just saying like, hey, come on down. And it's like just the most average Joe looking thing that you've ever seen. The other thing that I saw, just speaking of just like crazy tweets, I saw, and this has been very overblown, so apologies if you've already seen it, because it's definitely something that has been the major storyline from his weekend rather. But Michael Block charges $150 per lesson at the club that he's a pro at. And they did the math, and it would basically take about 1,922 lessons to equate to the payout that he received just from where his positioning was to end this tournament, which is just so cool to see. I mean, Tyler and I were both talking about the struggles of corporate life and day to day in this world, and how difficult it can be in terms of like your output and trying to find a good work-life balance and making money and being able to support yourself. And this dude was able to do a really, really great job for his family this weekend. And at the end of the day, that's what they're there for. So to be able to do something life-changing and memorable for him from an experience standpoint, and to be able to end up, being able to take away that payout, awesome.
That was the most serious and heartfelt thing we have ever said on this show. Clip it.
And now
somebody say something off. Somebody say something off. Mark, you have
Brooks Koepka's wife is a pain in the ass.
It's crazy. I heard that he used to actually work on a construction site. There was a video that came out shortly. He used to be one of the best nail gun sharpshooters of all time. There was an unfortunate accident with his foreman on the job. He did have to, unfortunately, retire from that. Thankfully,
unfortunate smelting accident.
I love gold.
You know the Mr. Mister lady? Yeah, I hit her with my car.
I think I just killed her.
I think I just
But to be honest with you, if we're going to get into the us being us and being ridiculous, did you guys see the video? And I just said it out loud, so I want to clarify why I'm saying that Brooks Koepka's wife just absolutely stinks. She was like not at the tournament, but she was like cleaning the trophy case for his new trophy. And I'm like she already presented herself as somebody who does not.
You were picturing her in her
really have a lot of humility to begin with, but oh dear God. But like, what are we doing? Like, does that really need to be necessary? Like, it's just kind of tying into the whole narrative that Brooks Koepka is like a Shooter McGavin type. Like, he really is like one of those guys that you want to root for, but like there is a massive villain persona going on, and it's kind of ridiculous at this point.
In other news,
where did he finish? At last? Had a good day though.
In other news, Mike doesn't like NFL celebrations. He hates bat flips, and
I hate everything. I'm an angry person. We'll get into that later, but
honestly, I don't even know. Like, I think Brooks rubbed people the wrong way because he was like non-traditional golf, and now like the live thing is gonna rub like a bunch of people the wrong way. But again, like the biggest thing is he's cocky. But when you win as much as he does in these majors, I don't even think it's like he said once he thinks majors are easier to win than the other tournaments. And so you're like, oh, cocky statement. But then he broke it down. He goes, look, 50% of the field isn't good enough to win a major, just being dead honest. He goes, the other 25% aren't mentally tough enough to win a major. So he goes, in a major, I have to beat a quarter of the field. In another tournament where the courses are easier and everyone is damn good at golf, anyone can go out and shoot a really low number over 4 days. So like he backs it up. But yeah, his wife sucks. Like Jenna Sims kind of gives off really, really, really awful vibes. So yeah, I think people hate Brooks for Jenna sometimes.
Also, I was just watching Selling Sunset, so I just had a lot of toxic energy. So that's probably where a lot of my anger and frustration is coming from. However, like the one thing that I will say, the one thing I will say though about this whole thing is that in this particular instance, sure, Brooks Koepka backs it up, but you don't see a lot of those guys that are in the top 15 in the world going out and acting that way. Like I would kind of almost equate it to like a Jimmy Butler, where in his specific instance, like he does have that sort of chip on his shoulder because there are a lot of people that aren't kind of putting him in the same sentence as certain other guys that he's outperforming and far surpassing. However, I mean, to me, there are plenty of guys out there that are ridiculously good, and they kind of set that example. And I know that these guys don't have to be role models, but it is something that comes with the territory. And there's something to me about being a complete golfer on and off the course, that if you kind of present yourself with that, professional level of, hey, I'm going to back up what I can say, but I'm not going to really go over the top and like kind of talk down on other people or act like I'm better than you. That adds a level of respect to how I feel about you as an athlete, as a golfer. And that, to me, I really like watching Brooks Koepka play. I've always been a big Brooks Koepka guy. And most recently, from everything that's gone on, from seeing him portrayed in full swing to just kind of the comments that he's made lately, is just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know how else to put it. It's just kind of disappointing, because to me, I don't want to see that. Like, I don't really care about that kind of energy.
By the way, the Crossing the Line Invitational is starting to come to fruition.
I think we've just hashed out the rules before we started recording. But
we did.
People might need to know.
So I believe the teams are going to be myself and Mike versus Jack and Mark. And
this pairing,
I think this is a terrible idea, just to be completely honest.
What, to go play golf? I think it's a great idea.
It should be Jack versus the three of us in some semblance, because this dude is going to kick our asses.
Listen, it doesn't matter. We're out there playing, having a good time. But we are going to play some semblance of a scramble. And if you do not par on your scramble, anything worse than par results in a team, not one, each player on the team, you're not sharing one, has to shotgun a beer before the next hole.
Yeah.
I like it
and
a lot.
Honestly, I think really when we made these pairings, we realized that we made these pairings good drinkers versus bad drinkers. And
it's true. I mean, you're not.
Don't call yourself a bad drinker.
No,
That's
no. See, that right there is way less irritating to me than for you to say that I'm like it's bad golf teams. Because I know that I'm a bad golfer, right? But like, I'm a terrible drinker. I was a terrible drinker in college. And listen, I'm getting close to 30 here, boys. This isn't getting any better.
I actually think I've gotten better. No, I'm just kidding. I've gone down.
Yeah, I think that's a locked in rule, and we could probably have like we can work out the details on like how many breakfast balls we get, because I think there should be a couple mulligans, one aside at least, or something along those lines. And I think we have to have one other like crazy out of left field rule, but we're nailing it down. Now we got to find the date and the proper venue, because I don't think we can play a dog track, but we definitely don't belong on a country club, the four of us together, especially doing this. So I think we got to find that happy medium of good enough golf course where we're not hating every shot, but bad enough where we can shotgun 5 to 7 beers and be accepted.
John F. Bird. I don't know if any of you have ever played there. It fits that description perfectly.
Beautiful.
I'll bring a little baggie full of little airplane shooters. If you want an extra mulligan, you just got to hit one of those.
Beautiful.
I like that too.
I almost would rather just take airplane shooters, like the whole round.
As opposed to shotgunning a beer?
Well, I can't even shotgun beers. We'll get into that later, but
it's all right, Mike. We'll get you a Rourke.
Stipulations.
Yeah.
We're gonna get Mike Huggies. Those juice boxes.
Oh, can we do Capri Suns, bro? That sounds way better.
How are you gonna shotgun a Capri Sun? You gonna stick the straw through the hole through the side?
Yeah, stick it to the side of the couch.
Yeah,
very
come
easy.
on.
It's like you never watched that. What was it, like a video back in the day?
Shotgun
a bunch of kids, and they did the Capri Sun one, and there's a guy at the end. You could tell very college age, going, "Yeah, I'm very happy about this."
No, I could shotgun a high noon, but I think it would be way funnier to shotgun a Capri Sun and then rip a shooter of like, I don't know, Tito's or some Patron or so. I had a Patron shot yesterday on the course. It was actually pretty elite.
I think you should go to the bar next time we're together. Go out to the bar and ask the bartender with a dead straight blank expression, no joking whatsoever. Hi, excuse me, sir. Can I get a vodka Capri Sun, please? And see what they say.
I can't even.
What if he looked at you and goes, "Well, like which flavor?"
Yeah, Pacific
Cooler,
please.
Pacific Cooler, obviously.
Speaking of same vein, I'm sure you've now seen Sunny D's come out with vodka seltzers.
Yep.
I had one.
Shut up. They're good,
It
aren't they?
tastes like Sunny D.
It's good.
Sunny D doesn't fuck around. It is quite literally like you are drinking a slightly carbonated Sunny D. It is.
You don't miss.
I'll
It
be
is
right back. I'm going to the store. I am
I've been
100% in.
I've been drinking these Rise energy drinks, and they have like Sunny D as a flavor. There's Kool-Aid flavor. There's all these like things they've done. The Sunny D, if it tastes anything like that, it's gonna be perfect.
It's-
Did I mention I'm a nostalgia junkie yet?
Yeah.
I'm in.
I was skeptical to say the least. I thought like I took the first sip like kind of, you know, how you take a shot of Crown when you were in college when we did dumb shit like that. Like that's how I took the first sip, expecting to hate it. And then that can was gone in the next 5 seconds. I was like, this is delicious. It is.
I tell you, the first shot that somebody bought me in college was Crown. The second shot was a Four Horsemen.
Delicious.
That's how much people hate me.
Setting you up for failure.
Has anyone ever had a shot of Malort?
No.
Nope.
Hashtag-
Not even. Nope.
Shout out
That-
Ryan Stevens.
That's
you,
a Chicago drink,
sir.
right?
That is when I was in Dubuque, I was unfortunate enough to run into one. God, that is the worst.
There were enough people that lived in that town to have a bar.
Oh, everybody. And literally, dude, if you visit Chicago, every single person, like that's a rite of passage. Like if you go to Philly and you're like, oh, let me take you to the best cheesesteak spot. Like instead of, oh, let me get you some nice food, or let me take you to a nice restaurant, or go to the Phillies game or something, like you go to Chicago, let me have a shot of Malort ready for you. It's like,
Been hanging out with
that's-
Stevens too much.
Zoli, people only lived in the town because there was a bar. You know, like when in the 1800s, when people rushed to the West Coast because there was gold, like people just rushed to a bar and then they set up camp around that bar. And that's how civilization was born in the Midwest. Bars were first, and then the neighborhoods spread out from the bars.
Bar, church, and then one
Cow.
one general, one cow.
Bar, church, cow, Iowa.
In that order.
yo, I'm looking up this Sunny D right now. I need to get it. Need it.
All
There's
right,
gonna be my
so
Memorial Day
God.
weekend plans right there.
Here.
that
What'd
is
you
this
say,
week-
Mark?
That is this weekend, boys.
Oh, that's gonna be my Memorial Day weekend plans. I'm gonna sit by the pool and just drink some Sunny D's.
That sounds great,
Okay.
boys. I love it. I'm all in for the Sunny D's. I'm all in for the pool. Maybe we'll play around so that well, no, you know what? Screw it. I'm going into this crossing the line invitational looking, if I'm allowed to drink Sunny D or shotgun a Capri Sun and rip a shooter, I'm all in for this now.
Do whatever you need to just get as drunk as we are.
Everybody bring their booze of choice and one ridiculous drink.
Cool.
Like I'm gonna bring like an entire jug of like Welch's grape juice.
Tom
Along-
That's
wine.
not ridiculous. That's just smart. All right.
I'm gonna bring a sour apple Four Loko,
That's just more booze.
and it's gonna be my first shotgun.
You
I'll
want
bring
to
a
die?
I'm on board. Let's go.
Bury me on the first tee.
Jack, I'm bringing
Jack
Tom
finishes
wine.
it, he throws it up right away, hits his
Tom
first
wine.
drive, peels it down the middle.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And then dies.
We all bring our drink of choice for shotguns, but then the other punishment is we just bring one bag of Franzia and we have to slap the bag on every green.
How many extra strokes do you have?
If you
Oh, man.
miss a green in regulation, you need to slap the bag.
Yes. Oh,
This
boy.
is a disaster already.
It's
and
gonna
on-
be
Take the
so good.
microphone away from us.
And on that note,
Speaking of disasters,
speaking of disasters, how about this rule in the NFL? You guys come here often? I
The
guess
40
that's why
whiners get
I
their
guess
way.
that's why they call
Classic.
it Sin City. So the NFL is implementing a new rule that will allow teams to have a third emergency quarterback dressed that will not count against the 53 man or the 46 dressed players roster heading into this season. Now, I'm going to preface this and then I'll let you guys expound upon this in any way that you wish. I think this is a good rule. I do. I think this is a player safety rule. I think that this is a gamesmanship rule. It's a game integrity rule. I think that this is a fine implementation of a rule where you don't have to worry about using a roster spot for a third quarterback where it's emergency situations, but you're also not running out your running back to play quarterback in a big spot. I think that this is a good rule. This is where the comma but comes in. But it happened off the backs of the San Francisco 49ers and their fan base being a bunch of crybaby bitches and talking nonstop about how, well, they would have beat the Eagles if you would have had a quarterback. So what? So here's the deal. Trey Lance gets hurt in week 2. Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt. Brock Purdy is hurt. Josh Johnson is hurt.
Stinks.
Who's your 5th quarterback? You go into a 5th quarterback, right? And you pull that person, and they are an established NFL quarterback, right? Maybe it's a young guy, a rookie, or it's a journeyman, like a Josh Johnson type quarterback, right? Do you really think you're winning the NFC Championship game?
Heck no. I did this on the last.
And this
podcast.
isn't just Eagles fans being Eagles fans. Like, objectively speaking, you weren't beating the Eagles in that game.
In the words of Roy Kent, fuck no.
At that point in that game, they're going to put that guy in. Hassan Reddick's going to come around the corner, break his arm too, and just keep going. Maybe get a line that can stop somebody, and you'll be fine.
Or don't put a backup tight end 1-on-1 to chip a guy who has 15 sacks in the regular season
and is more athletic than said tight end anyway.
Correct.
This rule is the best thing that could have ever happened for Will Levis's career.
Damn.
He'll stick around a lot longer. Good for him.
This will keep Stetson Bennett on a team too, probably.
There's a lot of guys that came out of this draft that are going to get some serious run because of it. Max Duggan is going to stick around longer than he should.
Sean Clifford.
Shut the fuck up. He's going to be better than Will Levis.
He's going to be better than Jordan Love. He's going to start within 2 years.
Within 7 games.
Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I will dance on everyone's grave, even if they're not dead, when Sean Clifford wins a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers.
Joke's on you. I won't have a grave.
I'll be dancing on my own on the first tee then.
Zuli's got the mausoleum.
I got the urn waiting for me.
Ooh, nice.
I'll be dancing on your urn.
Back in that urn, he can just Gronk spike that urn. That's my friend on the ground.
This was such a bad idea. Somebody get the shot back.
I'll pour some Sunny D seltzer into your urn.
There you go.
Pour one out for the boys.
I don't have more of a take on that rule other than what you said, Zuli. Like, I think it's a good rule. I think it also, like, with quarterback being so important and so vital to, like, just the success of every NFL team, you don't want to see, and I think it was, the 49ers are one example, but what happened in Denver when they had to roll out a wide receiver at quarterback, like, you don't want to see that. You want to see competitive games, or at least more competitive than that was. So yeah, I agree with it, but yeah, it's annoying when it's a bunch of crybabies.
Well, I do want to clear something up though, Jack, because you are the one objective person who isn't an Eagles fan on this podcast. Was it a competitive game with Josh Johnson at quarterback for the 49ers? Was it competitive then?
No, but it's I guess it's like,
it had the assimilation of a competitive game.
The other difference is, like, if Josh Johnson came into a regular season game where the stakes are a lot lower, where you're not playing the second best team in the NFL last year, and it could have been the best team up until they lost to the Chiefs, then I think at least you have a better shot. Like, if Josh Johnson was, like, game planning for a week and he had to come in, he wouldn't be as bad. But like what you saw in Denver, where, again, a guy that hasn't taken a snap as an NFL quarterback ever has to play the position because of injuries, that's where it's going to at least make it a little bit more competitive. I agree in that. It's not going to change anything.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. I mean, just for clarification, we're all on the same page here. Like, there's no world where this doesn't make sense, in my opinion. I think that it totally, enhances the product that you see on the field. However, in the light that which it came to fruition, like Zuli mentioned, is so frustrating, because I'm still hearing from the 49ers players, coaches, fans, the NFL in general now has to kind of address it as a result of what happened in the NFC Championship game. And to that, it's frustrating for me to sit here and see that be the reason that this came to fruition. Because, again, same thing happened to the Eagles. We see Carson Wentz go down in the divisional game against the Seahawks, where literally not very clean of a hit comes into play. And then Josh McCown comes in playing injured as well, and we have to watch him run around, and nothing was said of it. maybe a few things here or there by some Twitter trolls, but you didn't have to hear it from anybody on the team. And years later, now this is a major thing. And we've got our, week 13 circled by all the 49ers and the media and everything. It's just stupid.
I mean, yeah, and I agree with the rule. I think we're all on the same page where it is a good rule. It's going to enhance what we get to watch on the field every day. But I guess it's annoying, right? Win with grace, lose with grace, right? Stop bitching about what could have been just because you had an injured quarterback. Maybe get a better training room. Maybe get a better line. Maybe scheme better. There's a lot of things they could have done to not be in that situation. And I guess you can't bet on an injury. You never know what's going to happen. It's they're out of left field, but I don't know. It's one of those you lost. It happens. It's fine. You made a good rule because you bitched enough. Cool. Awesome. Now we have a nice new rule in the NFL that actually people probably aren't going to be upset about. But man, don't let that be the reason that you think you didn't win the NFC Championship.
And I want to be very, very clear about this because I think that there are a lot of Eagles fans that won't admit this. The San Francisco 49ers are a damn good football team.
They're phenomenal.
And they probably, looking at them heading into the year, looking at them heading into the playoffs, sans the quarterback position because Brock Purdy was, the 7th round rookie and who was playing better than expectations, but still a 7th round rookie nonetheless. To me, they were the most complete roster in football last season. So
I agree.
I don't want to take any. I said this on one of the last few shows that I was doing at the radio station was I didn't want to play the 49ers in the playoffs. They worried me. Even coming to Philadelphia, defense travels, run games travel. They had a good offensive line. And there was an outright concern for me. And I think it probably would have been a good game, even if Brock Purdy was,
Sure.
played all 60 minutes of the game, probably would have been a competitive game. That's not where my issue lies because you're factually correct. I believe it would have been a different game. Where my issue lies is the incessant whining and complaining about it 6 months after the fact.
Yeah,
we would have won is
Yeah.
not the same as it would have been a different game.
Yeah, I get the frustration, right? Like if the same thing happens to the Eagles, you're frustrated because
Sure.
you could win the game if Jalen Hurts was in, but injuries happen in sports all the time. It's not like something rare happened in this 49ers situation. That shit happens all the time. You could probably go back and play what if with 2 to 4 teams every single year in every single sport with injuries. But it happened. And yeah, I think for a week or two after, if they had come out and they said, look, we just wish Purdy had been in the game. We wish we had a chance at this Eagles team with our starter because we think we would have won. No problem. Everyone's probably 50% of America is probably thinking that. But yeah, 6 months after the fact to say not just we think we would have won, but we were the better team and they just got lucky. That's bullshit.
In addition to that, don't give up 31 points. If your defense is the best in football, don't give up 31 points. It's as simple as that. If you keep them in the game and it's a 3 to 7 point game, we've seen plenty of backup quarterbacks come in and do well. We've seen a backup quarterback win the Super Bowl in the past 6 seasons. So don't complain if your strength is your defense and the defense is so far superior to everyone else in the NFL, which I do believe that's the case. I think that the 49ers, again, going into the season, if Sam Darnold's their starting quarterback, still have a pretty solid chance to at least be in the NFC Championship game again, if not the Super Bowl. And that's without a quarterback who is top 15, top 20 in the NFL.
I'm going to say this too. I don't think people want to hear this, especially 49ers fans. They have a better chance to get back to the NFC title game next year with Sam Darnold than they do with Brock Purdy.
Oh, well, with that, I would take that a little bit more of the grain of salt. I thought you meant rather than the Eagles. I think they have a better chance to get to the NFC Championship game than the Eagles do.
No. What I'm saying, I think that looking at the 49ers roster, I think what Kyle Shanahan can do with just about any quarterback in the league, Sam Darnold, I think, has a skill set that's not been able to be tapped into yet because he played for the Jets and the Panthers. I think that I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's good, but I think when you put them on an even playing surface together, Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, I would take Sam Darnold.
Fair. I think, Jack, honestly, you said it perfect, though. Injuries happen in every sport, contact or non-contact, especially football. At the end of the season, in the playoffs, the teams that are the best are the teams that are the healthiest. Things happen. You got to deal with it. So deal with it, do the best you can, don't bitch about it. You don't see a lot of these other teams that don't have, an entire offensive line because, one guy got his knee buckled in on, one dude, broke his ankle, one dude has a sprained ankle, they're not bitching like saying, oh, we could have won if we had that. Like you should have, you maybe would have, but you'll never know.
I don't think people factor in.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, I don't think people factor in how big a part luck plays into you winning a championship, because that's all it is with injuries. It's luck. Like you're lucky
at every level of the game too, no matter where you are.
Exactly. And I think like it's not, very rarely does the best team on paper actually win. Like if you look at the rosters constructed day one going into the season, how many times did you say, okay, the best roster in this sport won that championship? I'd venture it's less than 10% of the time. And that's because you actually have to play the games. Injuries happen. A lot of other things happen. Rosters, like on paper, doesn't mean you're a good team. Florida Panthers are a perfect example of this year. It's eked into the playoffs and they are playing lights out. They won the President's Trophy last year and they were bounced in the second round by the Lightning. Like you just have to play the game. And yeah, I think injuries are the biggest thing that factors into championship or not for a lot of these teams, because when you get down to it, there are probably 6 to 7 teams every year that could win a championship. So like you said, Mark, healthiest usually trumps everything else.
We're seeing the same thing with the Heat too. And Ty, I apologize for cutting you off there. I just wanted to sound off on this before we shift gears. Another perfect example of, for us as Philadelphia fans, how we view those types of situations. Look what happened last year with the Sixers beating the Raptors, but Embiid in the game late in a game where they didn't even need, and he ends up breaking his face on the Siakam play and plays the next series with a broken face against the Heat, who were just too much for him with Embiid injured. We're not going into that saying, well, Embiid is hurt. Well, we didn't get a fair shake of this opportunity. No, we're looking at that and saying, well, Doc Rivers screwed up and he had a poor coaching moment. And the same thing happened for Kyle Shanahan. He shouldn't have a backup tight end and on one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and his guy doesn't get hurt in that position. So again, all different. Look at that. Apparently he's not.
You obviously haven't seen the rankings, Mike. So.
Clearly he's not that good, because most people, in Twitter say that's not the case.
So real quick, before we move on to the next thing, I want to ask you guys, just off the top of your head, Super Bowl winners who were the best roster in football the year they won the Super Bowl. Like the one that immediately jumps out to me is the year the Broncos beat the Panthers. Was it the Broncos beat the Panthers in the Super Bowl? No, because that was defense. That was Manning was shot by then, right?
Yeah, correct.
So
because the year they were really good, they got
good
by the Seahawks.
Right. So go back to that, right? The Broncos were the best team in football that year. I think we all knew that. Seahawks not only beat them, crushed them.
Yeah.
Your theory is true a lot.
Yeah. Even this year, like, I mean, the Chiefs are always, it's tough because like when you have a generational talent like Patrick Mahomes, it makes your overall team seem a lot better than it actually is. But from a pure team standpoint, the Chiefs were not the best team in football. They just happen to have the best player in football. And he is good enough to single-handedly win them a championship. But yeah, even this year, I don't think the Chiefs were a better team than the Eagles. I don't think with a healthy quarterback, they're a better team than the 49ers. They might not have even been a better team than the Bengals. Buffalo Bengals. If you look at those rosters top to bottom, they're probably a little bit better. They just have a Mahomes.
Sure.
Like Captain America says, we have a Hulk. We have a Mahomes.
All right. One final thing that we got to get to before we get to our game of the week, or our segment of the week, I should say. A big time NBA, I think, gonna be a Hall of Famer. I mean, I'm interested to see if you guys disagree, but I think just about as close to a Hall of Famer as you could possibly get, just on the numbers alone, plus the, USA team numbers, plus the college numbers. Remember, the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. So 19 seasons in the NBA, Carmelo Anthony is officially retiring from the NBA. And guys, that I don't know, for maybe Jack and Mike, maybe you guys feel a little bit young. Mark, maybe I'll ask you. Melo, that draft. I mean, the Melo draft. Think about it. It was LeBron, Melo, Bosh, and Wade in the top 5, right? And now we're down to Bron. That's it.
It's
right?
funny to think about, of those top, like 3 of them played together too.
Right. And so like another chapter of our childhood basketball is coming to an end with Carmelo Anthony retiring. And it got me thinking, guys, I want to know your guys' thoughts on this. Carmelo Anthony was obviously, I think I'm going to remember Carmelo Anthony for being a Denver Nugget first and foremost, but spent a lot of years with the New York Knicks. And he was a guy that I desperately hated. And not because of anything other than the fact that he was consistently dominant against the team that I rooted for, the Sixers. A guy that I immensely respect his game. I know people aren't huge on his ISO game. Same thing with James Harden. I loved Carmelo Anthony's game, and it was hard to not root for Carmelo Anthony when he was a part of the New York Knicks. So I want to ask you guys, give me a player that was on a rival team of a team that you root for, that you couldn't help but respect, or even maybe a step further, couldn't help but almost root for.
Can I derail this really quickly, because I was just thinking that
Sure.
2003 draft.
You son of a bitch.
That 2003 draft. So the top 4 of the 5 are incredible players.
Yep.
Darko Milicic was drafted second by Detroit Pistons. Can you imagine if the Pistons took either Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, or Carmelo Anthony? Because they already had Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups. Like, that team had 54.
My guy, Rip.
They had 54 wins drafting Darko Milicic, who barely played after like a couple seasons. But
I love that Pistons team.
That was a little topic on the show with Rasheed Wallace that I was producing today. A little spoiler coming out tomorrow on YouTube as well.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah. But to answer the question, my mind immediately hops to David Ortiz. I had to hate him on the Red Sox as a kid. I mean, the Red Sox, I don't think I've hated the team more than like the early 2000s Red Sox. I hated them.
Makes sense.
But the rivalry was so good back then. But I love everything else about Poppy other than the team he played for. Like, he's awesome personality. One of the best ESPN commercials of all time, where he puts on the Yankees hat to try out, and Wally, the Red Sox mascot, he goes, "Wally, no." But yeah, I love David Ortiz, but was obligated to hate him as a Yankees fan.
That's a good one. I'm curious. I'm definitely not going to say the one that Tyler was thinking, because I know Tyler had one in his mind for me. But I'm going to say one that in the early 2000s, being an Eagles fan, we'll say pre-jail. So you know who I'm going with now. He was a menace to most teams. But for whatever reason, the Eagles always kind of faced off against the Falcons in the playoffs. And Michael Vick was just tough. But then he became one of my favorite players.
Very the dogfighting thing. You big fan of that?
Oh, no. This is a bad look now all of a sudden. No, when he became an Eagle, he had his little, his comeback, his resurrection. And he was great. He was a good person at that point. He made a full change. He was somebody I loved, but I used to hate. It was hard to watch.
I know we've talked about this before in some setting. I don't know if it was on this show or not, but do you remember the year that he came in? Nick Foles got the concussion in week 1 against the Packers. They ultimately ended up losing the game. But for that game and the first couple after that, it was the year they beat the Giants in dramatic fashion and all that good stuff. Week 1, they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and Michael Vick came in relief of Nick Foles and was the most electrifying player on the field. And it was like video game-esque electrifying, how unbelievably athletic he was. His jump cuts were quick. He was a step ahead of everybody in that game.
Yeah, my image with Vic and the Eagles is when the Chip Kelly offense, and they come out and they blitz Washington on Monday night, I think. And the very first play from scrimmage is the most perfect spiral 65 yards down the field I've ever seen. He just launches that shit to Deshaun Jackson. that throw is where Vic and Eagles, that just lives in my mind.
It's almost crazy. You can't even say launch because he just flicked it.
It was
so strong.
Dude,
My name is Vic. The
I
pocket's
thought it
not
was
for
also
me.
funny that you. I will say this one because I know you probably think about this one. We did a clinic with him twice. I met the dude in person. He's an incredible guy. His girlfriend, an incredible person too. They're really nice, but they are on a rival team that I'm not allowed to like, and that's Ozzy. Ozzy Albies is one of those. I love him, but like, I'm not allowed to love these Braves players. But I'm starting to fall in love with a lot of them.
I like that.
I'm super
That's a good
curious what Mike the hater has.
You
to
know,
say.
I really do have
I hate
a lot.
everybody except for this Philadelphia sports teams. And even then, I hate them too.
He
Yeah,
hates
that's
them the
correct.
most. What do you
Correct.
mean?
Correct. I hate them the most. That's how I show my love. No, I really did have a lot of people come to mind. I really kind of wanted to dive deep into this though, because I can take a couple of easy outs, right? Obviously, Micah Parsons is a Cowboy. Saquon Barkley is a New York Giant. I'm not going to go with either of them. And I'm sorry if Tyler, I spoiled either of those for you. I don't know that I did.
Nope.
However, I was trying to think about certain guys, and there were a couple honorable mentions, Freddie Freeman being one of them. I really did enjoy watching Freddie Freeman, even though he's a Brave. But again, I felt too recent. So I kind of narrowed it down to three. And the guy that I ended up coming back to that I absolutely loved, and this is something that, you know, the Phillies being my number one team, like baseball is my first love of any sport. If I could have one ticket, it's Game 7 of the World Series to the Phillies. It was something that I grew up hating every NL East team, including the Florida Marlins, who are now the Miami Marlins. But at the time, there was one guy who I undeniably could not hate, and it was Dontrelle Willis. That guy was one of the coolest dudes to ever grace the mound. And as much as I needed to like dislike him and you know, for that stretch where he was just a phenomenal pitcher, it was so hard to root against him because I thought he was the coolest dude ever. And I was always like, is there a chance the Phillies could get him? Because not only would I like him to not pitch against the Phillies, but I would love to have, you know, him on our team. So that's the guy who epitomizes that role for me. However, I will throw out two more that I really felt like, actually, you know what, Tyler, I'm going to kick it to you because I don't want to take one that might be yours, but I do have two that are both the same position for the same team that I really did admire.
So I want to ask you guys this before I say this. Well, you know that I probably curse the least on this show. Also in our short time together, I've definitely not dropped any F-bombs on this show, and I'm going to do it twice in a matter of about 10 seconds. So here's your FCC warning. I love pitchers who have the mantra of give me the fucking ball and get the fuck off my mound. And if there is a person who personifies that, who is now pitched on 2 National League East teams, it's Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is my favorite pitcher of this generation because he truly is the guy that will take the ball at any given situation and just wants to beat you. Like, he wants to beat you, and not only just wants to beat you, he wants to make sure you know who Max Scherzer is. And he's a guy who loves to win. And I know he's started to kind of come down a little bit. The injuries are starting to add up a little bit, but his years with the Nationals, I mean, he was elite. He was absolutely elite. And I loved watching him take the mound every day. So I apologize for the FCC warning there, but that, like, I love the Bob Gibson mentality of get off my mound. This is my baseball. I'll tell you when I'm done pitching. And Max Scherzer is probably the present day closest thing to Bob Gibson I can think of.
I quickly realized that Tyler would have loved watching me play baseball.
We all would have.
Because that was exactly how I was. I remember my last playoff game, I threw 130 pitches because there was 3 innings before that. My coach came up to me and said, "Hey, I think you're kind of done." I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, this could be my last game ever. So no, I'm not. And then in the next inning, he came in. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna get Kyler ready to throw. I said, no, you're not. He can get warmed up, but he's not coming in. I'll tell you that right now.
I want to see the
Sitting
side of
on my
Mark
arm
more.
is hanging off like this. Just
We know Mark as like the
Bio
sweet,
freeze. He's just
cute
eating it.
looking cat dad who's just easygoing and funny and charming. I want to see, Mark back in his competitive day. I really would like to see
in
that.
between the white lines, there's a lot of fire. There's a lot
Coach
of
Mark, baby. Bring it all out.
Oh, dude, I do it when I coach now too. I'm a little more tame and a little more timid now because like I coach 13-year-olds. Like how excited can I get at a 13-year-old tournament? I'm not gonna yell at them. I'm not gonna belittle a 13. Well,
so
I'm
you're kind of taking a page.
13-year-old.
You're taking a page out of Zuli's book on this podcast. Try to limit the F-bombs, but still be able to kind of approach your frustration from an analytical perspective.
Yeah,
I appreciate you saying
that
limit,
was,
but I definitely don't completely get rid of them.
That was my F-bomb allotment for the next probably 6 weeks at least.
You used your F-bomb allotment for 6 weeks that I would use in a usual sentence.
I'm a PG-13 movie. I'm allowed one per movie.
I thought of another name, by the way, while you guys were talking there.
Do it.
But I can't technically use this one because he was on our team. But he was like, you know how you have like a friend group or you have a team and there's that douchebag on the team. But he's like, he's yours. Everyone else hates him, but he's yours and you love him for it.
Yep.
And I realize now it sounds like I'm talking about Bryce Harper and I'm not. But the original Mr. Hustle, or not even the original, I guess the second one for the Phillies, Chase Utley, dude. Chase Utley, everybody else probably hates him.
I would have hated Chase Utley.
I know. I asked one of my buddies who was a second baseman in college and high school and everything his whole life. And I said, like, you like Chase Utley at least, right? Because like growing up in that era, he's like, I hated him more than anybody. He was the worst person in the world. Like, I loved him. I loved watching Chase Utley play with a passion.
I like him.
The man.
But I just kind of fits the mold of this whole thing.
I have two that I'm actually ashamed almost to feel this way now that I do, but it's been so far removed from when they played that it's not really as big a deal. The first being O.C. Umenyiora, who I believe Jack has a picture with, if I'm not mistaken.
London, yeah.
But that guy, for whatever reason, just like absolutely tortured the Eagles from like 2004 to 2008. Within that span, I feel like was just so dominant. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I'm just like, tip your cap. Like that guy, just for whatever reason, for the third time I'm saying it, it just like, it blew my mind how good he was against the Eagles. And I was just like, can't hate but respect the man. And then the last one, which is really the hardest one for me, but just because of the persona after football, I've really grown to like Michael Strahan. And that guy was probably one of the biggest Philly sports villains of our childhood.
He was so fucking good.
Yeah, he was unbelievable and so menacing to the Eagles and really killed a lot of what could have been for us in the regular season. And, just to see the kind of dude that he is off the field and the personality and everything, I respect and like him so much more now. And I always felt like I hate this guy because he's torturing my team. However, if you were to get him in any semblance of, you could have him for a game, an important game, you'd take him 1,000%. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it. So have to do it. And, Jack knows I love a good Michael Strahan impression. So shouts to the man, Michael Strahan.
Mark.
Unfortunately, it's my special segment.
So we gave you an hour's notice. Actually, we gave you multiple hours notice, but we came on right before we got started, and Mark goes, "Is it my turn today?"
And to be fair, it's been Mark's turn 3 or 4 times, and he said that every single time.
Guys, I have a lot of things that
we don't even have an order anymore. I'm just
he's too busy belittling 13-year-olds to have time for our special segments.
Real quick,
they gotta know they suck.
Just so we're all on the same page, Jack, you're up next week.
Fair enough. Can you
let me know? I feel like I've done this.
Let me know when we start recording.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't done it in a while, but I'm fine being the person to sit back and let you guys be
Mike,
the creatives.
you're after Jack. You're in 2 weeks.
So I
Won't be there.
after learning that it was my job to do the segment this week, I thought, what could I Google right now that would give me an idea? So I Googled thought-provoking sports questions. Dude,
What does Google
the best
say?
list of all time, and I almost don't know which one to pick here, guys.
What if you ask each of us a different one?
That's what I was gonna have. There's a couple of things we could do. I could ask each of you a different one.
Okay.
We could ask it and go at a quick
Rapid
trigger.
fire.
Let's just whatever you think right off the bat. Or I ask one and we talk about it. Up to you guys.
I just
I'm all in on
asked.
the rapid fire.
I like
feel
the rapid fire.
Yeah, I'd like 3 of them rapid fire. Like we have to do 30-second answers.
I just
Okay.
asked the Snapchat AI, what is a thought-provoking sports question? And it said, what is your favorite sports moment of all time? How generic, Snapchat. Get a better AI. Sorry, I'm done. Keep
People say
going.
AI is going to run the world, but they're asking shitty questions like that. It's at least 5 years down the line.
Snapchat AI is stupid. I know that
Really
I'm the
is.
rant
It's
guy
so
and I
dumb.
hate everything and anything, but you suck.
Mike
you
is
need to
old
get
man yelling at
smarter.
clouds.
We
All
trade
right,
off,
well,
me and Tyler.
All right, lay it
I
on.
got you with the first one. This one's a tough one, but I think there's a good answer for this one. Would you rather be the star of a bad team or an average player on an elite team?
So this is an easy. I feel like I've answered this question. I feel like I've answered this question a lot for some reason. It's an average player on an elite team. Your goal, unless you're playing golf, but that's not a team, right? If you're in a team sport, your goal is to win the team championship. I don't care if I'm a great player losing every time. It's a average player on an elite team. That's the correct answer.
Are we professionals or are we just like us?
We're just us. 'Cause if
Okay,
we're professionals, it's
then Jack has the right answer. If we were professionals, it's the first one because money, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. But if we're just us like playing summer ball or something like that, I would rather be an average player on an elite
Spoken
team.
like a man with a corporate job.
Money talks, buddy.
I'm not copying Tyler here. He just got to say it first. Yeah, it's 1,000% that. If you have no stakes on the line, if it's like your beer league softball team and you can either be the best player on a bad team or a mediocre player on a good team, it's 1,000% the latter. I was one of the best players on my very not so good softball team, and it was horrible. We did not win a single game. So that just tells you all you need to know. It was a miserable experience. It's not fun to lose no matter what. If you end up being like on a good team, at least it's fun and you play your role and you enjoy the camaraderie, and it's a lot more enjoyable at the end of the day. Yeah. If you're in the MLB, I'm gonna be 1,000% more happy being Mike Trout than I am being, the Christian Javier, like a middle of the road guy who, is on the championship team. And maybe he's even way back. No, Chas McCormick. I'd rather be Mike Trout than Chas McCormick. That's how I'm going to put it.
Yeah, I'll even answer this one for you guys. And I'll give you a little bit of background because of like why I would say it. I've been on a lot of good teams and I wasn't the best player on the team, but I was like a really good player on the team. And I've been on a team where I was the best player and I can remember it vividly because we never fucking won. It killed my spirit. I didn't even like the game of basketball anymore for a long time because we were that bad and I hated it that much. So I would rather be an average player on an elite team. I like winning way too much. I hate losing even more than I like winning, though. And that is the true testament.
That's truly why I don't gamble. Honestly, like to encapsulate how much I hate losing, I would much rather save my $5 than win $10.
Fair. I'm going to test your guys' coaching knowledge now. Would you rather ensure overtime or risk losing and win in regulation? Go start this one, actually.
What sport?
Yeah, what sport are we talking here?
What sport? Because that changes my answer probably.
Yeah.
Does change it. Let's go with football because it happens a lot.
Football.
Actually, but for Jack, it's hockey.
Fair enough.
Okay. Football, I'm going for it. Screw it, man. I anything can happen in overtime in football. If you have the ball when the game is on the line and you have the opportunity to control the outcome, I've seen too many annoying overtimes go awry where, obviously in football, there are certain instances where a coin flip changes everything. I know there have been certain things that have been changed about that, but again, you need to, in any moment when the game is on the line and the clock is ticking and you have the ball, you need to be able to capitalize. If your team can't do it, then you lose the game. But if you have the opportunity to win, take it. It's your best chance.
The only conceivable way in which that I'm in this metaphorical, golf analogy I'm laying up is if I am the road team in a baseball game and I'm down 1, or regardless, I'm down whatever, right? Because this game has to go to the 9th or the bottom of the 9th anyway. If I'm playing from a position of like I'm home, especially in baseball, I'm going for the win. But it depends on am I losing or am I tied? If I'm tied, then that changes my answer again. If I'm losing, I'm going for broke. But baseball would be the one that I would sit back a little bit more on. The NBA, I will always go for the win, and the other two kind of probably fall in between.
I'm not even sure how you I'm not even sure how you really play it safe in hockey. Like you can certainly I guess fall back into a neutral zone trap if you want to, but that's probably the toughest sport to play for overtime. But that being said, I don't really think it matters on the sport. I'm always going for the win. When you just have the opportunity to end the game, like Mike said, if you don't want to leave it up to a coin flip, in hockey, there's so many fluky goals that end games in overtime. Go for the win when you have a chance. And also if you're looking at, like we have for this postseason, if you're playing the long game, you want the game to end as quickly as possible so you're as fresh for the next game too. But I think it's silly to play for a tie. That's what the Europeans do in soccer. In America, we play for wins.
Yeah, I think they said it best in the longest yard. We convicts, we always go for the win. This last question, I'm going to change slightly because this one's a little less thought-provoking, I think, but I think it's a fun one. And this kind of helps me in what I've been doing every single weekend for the last 6 weeks. I go to these tournaments. I see all these teams. I see the organizations that the names of down here, the team elites, like the prime organizations that get guys to colleges and stuff. They have 9 teams, of which 7 of them are just funding teams because they fund the top teams to be good. But they always have cool uniforms because that's just part of it, right? You got the money, you get the cool uniforms. There's a lot of these other bummy teams. And sometimes, we're a team that's an organization that's not really a marquee, but we're really good. So we have good uniforms because they paid for them. They're pretty cool. I like them. I don't know if you guys have seen them. They're pretty sick.
This is why you're running the scores up on weekend tournaments. 20 to nothing or whatever it was.
No, you can't.
Was there a question or were you just plugging your team's merchandise?
Straight up, I wish I was.
www.markfignanis'steam.com.
Take off that sweatshirt. Let's see where you committed, Mark.
The question here is, would you rather have just super sick uniforms and be on, a great organization and play for a shitty team? Or would you rather wear t-shirts and be on a top team and win a lot?
Yeah, jerseys mean nothing to me.
The question it actually said was, would you rather have cool uniforms with a rundown stadium or a state-of-the-art stadium with ugly uniforms? But I had to make it fit.
I'd take the state-of-the-art stadium as well. Playing on bad fields is not fun. But I don't care. I mean, listen, I've played baseball games in t-shirts. I've played baseball games in vests. I've played them in button-down jerseys, and you've pretty much played them in everything in between. I would rather.
Sorry, keep going.
I would rather have competitive baseball or a good organization than a cool jersey. The jersey doesn't mean much to me.
I want to play baseball in a tuxedo t-shirt because it's
nice.
Normal, but I'm here to party.
Party in the back.
Party.
Oh wait, no, that's a mullet.
That's
sorry.
That's
I want to be on the Crazy Fishes playing on the road at the Super Duper Monsters, because then I get to play at Steel Stadium, but I also get the nice Reese Worthington family jerseys. And if you don't understand that reference, go watch our reenactment of the backyard baseball draft we had a few weeks back.
And we call that, folks, a plug.
A plug, and I think a good way to end the show.
Mike, if you're really good, you put like that video up in the corner now too. You can click right here.
Well, Jack's editing tonight, so if he can do it. I mean, that is his job now, so.
Truly is.
And on that note, we will wrap this show up for this week's podcast. So once again, if you don't mind, before you hang up on us, if you stuck around this long, first and foremost, we thank you for doing that. Hit that like button on this video. And of course, if you would not mind, drop a subscription down below. We will have to change our goals because our May goal was smashed. So we're going to have to come up with a June goal as we get closer and closer to the month of June in the summertime. We'll continue to try to put out the best content that we possibly can. Of course, you can find us wherever you get your pods as well. Apple, Spotify, everywhere in between. Thanks to Mike and Jack's editing work, you can find us just about everywhere. So for all of our guys, Mark Fagnani, Jack Molesky, Mike DeVella, I'm Tyler Zulli. We thank you so much for hanging out with us once again. We'll be back next week with a brand new Crossing the Line podcast. Until then, we'll talk to you later.
Vegas.